Okay, is the dominance of Bayern Munich negatively impacting the German national side? So Germany obviously won the World Cup in 2014, and they've been regularly making the knockout stages since Euro 2000 and going far in tournaments. So after Euro 2000, the German FA sat down with all the German clubs saying we need to restructure how we develop players, our league structure, and various things. The next tournament, World Cup 2002, 20 years ago, they made the final against Brazil, ultimately losing 2-0, but they were finalists after a very disappointing Euro 2000 tournament, which was a big shock considering that they had won Euro 96, which was hosted here in England. And so there was a massive transformation of German football, how they developed players, the 50 plus 1 rule in Germany became more popular, and they really looked how they structured the club game to benefit not only the clubs, but also the national side as well. Lo and behold, in 2014, this project bore fruit. They win the World Cup in Brazil. They battered Brazil, the host, 7-1 in the semi-final. Since that World Cup, however, including this current World Cup and the previous World Cup in Russia, they have failed to get out of the group stage, and they also laboured in Euro 2020, and ultimately losing to England in an early knockout stage, 2-0. So in back-to-back World Cups, they failed to get out of the group, and they didn't really go far in the knockout stages at the last Euro. So the last three tournaments, they have really underperformed. In that same time frame, since winning the World Cup in 2014, Bayern Munich have won 10 league titles straight, which is a record in German football. Never been done before. Now, there's been dominant spells by clubs in German football in the past. We've done some club histories on football clubs, including Borussia Dortmund, Kaiserslautern, and Borussia Mönchengladbach, to name quite a few. In more recent years, however, clubs like Eintracht Frankfurt have started to win silverware, including in Europe, which I think is a long-term benefit. But clubs like Borussia Dortmund, which have also been highly successful both domestically and in Europe, they have won the Champions League in their past exploits, have been forced to sell players rather than keep the squad together. And Bayern Munich, in the German side of things, hoover up players that other European clubs don't buy. And of course, Borussia Dortmund have been known, Haaland, Man City, big money. Sancho, Man United, big money. Jude Bellingham, is he on the way out, and could he be one of the most expensive teenagers of all time? That is a question, obviously, for this summer's transfer window, or possibly even January, depending on how he does in this World Cup. Now, Germany falling at the group stage for the second consecutive World Cup, should I say. This is new things for Germany. This is something they don't experience. So in my lifetime, they've only failed to get out of the group stage of a major tournament 3 times. And I've been alive for 33 years as of next week. So in my lifetime, they failed to get out of the group 3 times. And I remember Euro 2000 because they were terrible. And they lost to a very bad England side as well, who beat Germany 1-0, courtesy of an Alan Shearer goal in Charleroi. The 2018 World Cup, there is a bit of a curse of World Cup champions failing to get out the subsequent group stage in the following tournament, which was no different with Germany. It was sort of a curse. Spain did it in 2014, France did it in 2002, so some big name nations have obviously failed to progress further. Italy have done it as well. Following their World Cup triumph in 2006. This is not like an unnatural phenomenon, but to do it in back-to-back tournaments is a surprise. Notice at the same time Bayern Munich are winning a lot. Now this season in Germany is looking a bit more open. Clubs like Hertha Berlin and Eintracht Frankfurt are suddenly going, hang on a second, we're going to give this Bundesliga a bit of a crack. And Eintracht Frankfurt are actually a reasonably decent side. They've just won a European trophy last season. They've won the German Cup a few times in recent years, including beating the very dominant Bayern side 3-1 in the 2018 final, which was a fantastic achievement and was very popular on the channel as well. And could the dominance of German football by Bayern Munich? I think personally, yes. I think it is having now a negative impact on the national side. It has to be. Look at Scotland with the dominance of Rangers and Celtic since the mid-80s, where the only other club since the 80s to actually win the league title was Aberdeen, and they have been close to winning the league title for quite some time. Look how the national side has declined. It took a while, but they've only appeared at one major tournament since 1998, which was last year's delayed Euros, and they didn't do very well. There is a correlation between league dominance by one or a handful of clubs and lack of international success. England found this out in the 90s and the 2000s. We had some great players, but Manchester United in that early Premier League era were dominating the league. Liverpool, for a lengthy period following the '66 World Cup were the dominant side. England didn't do well at tournaments. The bright spot in that period was Italia '90 and Euro '96. And this is when we had ended the dominant spell by Liverpool and were in the early throes of the dominant spell by Manchester United, where they were winning the majority of the domestic silverware. And so it's only been in recent times where the Premier League has definitely become more competitive, and we've had some first-time winners, and we've had some gaps in between trophies, and clubs are winning for the first time in a long time, such as Leicester and Liverpool, for example, that I think it's now benefiting the national side, where the league is more competitive, more teams are winning trophies than before. And you notice in the history books, when there's a lengthy dominant spell by one club rather than several clubs vying for trophies, it is a correlation. But in the '70s, the German side were very good, and there was a reason for that. The league was very competitive. It wasn't just Bayern Munich winning all the time. Before 1970, Bayern Munich weren't very good. Actually, to be fair, they didn't have a lot of silverware. But Borussia Mönchengladbach were also a pretty decent side in the '70s, and so the silverware was being shared around domestically in Germany and in Europe as well. And it had a positive impact on the national side. So, yes, I do believe that the dominance of Bayern Munich is now negatively impacting the German national side. The last time Germany was in this position where they were really struggling at tournaments was Euro 2000, having been champions not long before. And so, therefore, do the German FA go back to the clubs and reassess their youth development, the structure of their league, the competitiveness of their league? Do they expand the Bundesliga back to 20 teams? Do they change the promotion relegation structure? Do they put limits on the amount of like a transfer cap or a stronger salary cap in place? Because while Bayern Munich are the wealthiest club in Germany, they're not the biggest. Best supported by supporter base, actually, that is Borussia Dortmund have the biggest fan base, but this lengthy spell of dominance, yes, they are a well-run club, and yes, they did turn down the European Super League last spring, which was a big thing that helped actually derail the European Super League. So they've got some credit, and they did stand up to the Nazis in the '30s and '40s, which did harm the club for a while following World War II and the United Germany after World War II and such. However, their current period of dominance, I think, is harming the German national side, and not necessarily benefiting player development and other clubs really willing to give it a go. Because you notice in the Champions League, German clubs haven't won it for a while, and that is quite telling. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Place your thoughts in the comments section below. I want to hear your views on this, and I'll have some more World Cup content for you today. There's a couple of knockout games in the second round, which will be interesting to dissect and break down. Of course, England play Senegal tomorrow, which will be very, very interesting. Does the ITV TV curse strike again? Do England fall at the first knockout stage? Could there be a shock on the cards? England are favourites on paper, but games aren't won on paper. Look at Uruguay. They had some talented players, can't get out of the group stage. Belgium, Germany, Denmark. Games aren't won on paper. Tournaments aren't won on paper. They're won on the field by players. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.